You know that feeling when you wake up and something from a dream is still clinging to you. Not an image, not a story, just a feeling, heavy or warm or strangely tender, and you can't quite explain it. But it follows you into your morning like a quiet companion. Tonight, we're going somewhere safe with that feeling. Welcome to Psychology for Sleep. Wherever you are right now, perhaps lying in the quiet dark, feeling the warmth of your blanket, listening to the soft rhythm of your own breath, let yourself arrive here fully. Tonight we will decode 100 emotional facts about dreams. From the first tremor of feeling that stirs beneath sleep, to the language your dreaming mind has always spoken, to what your emotions are doing while you rest. This gentle exploration of the emotional world inside your dreams was made for tired minds like yours. A quiet like, a soft subscribe. It carries this feeling forward and helps one more weary soul find their way here. One sleepy soul at a time. This peaceful space grows. Your presence here already means the world. Let yourself settle completely now. Feel the places where your body meets the bed, the soft pressure beneath your shoulders, your hips, your heels. You don't need to hold on to anything tonight. Let your thoughts drift past like the tail end of a dream already fading, present for a moment, then simply gone. You are safe here. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're resting where the body grows still and feeling grows vivid. Let your mind dissolve into the quiet language between sleep and knowing. And now we begin. Dreams have always carried emotion, long before scientists had words for it. Humans across every known culture described their dreams not primarily by what they saw, but by how they felt. Ancient Egyptian records describe dreams as divine messages, interpreted not through their imagery, but through the emotional weight they left behind. Anger, grief, longing, awe. These were the vocabulary of the dreaming mind, recognized long before neuroscience existed to explain them. Modern sleep research has confirmed what these early observers sensed. Emotions are not a side effect of dreaming. They are its primary language. The images and stories that appear in dreams are, in many ways, simply the containers that emotions pour themselves into. The emotional content of dreams is not random. Research from sleep laboratories, including work published through the National Institutes of Health and leading neuroscience journals, consistently shows that dreams carry a strong emotional signature, and that signature trends heavily toward the difficult. Studies analyzing large collections of dream reports find that the majority of dream emotions, by most estimates, more than half, and often as many as 2/3, carry a negative tone. Fear is the most common. Sadness, anger, and confusion follow closely. This is not a design flaw. It is, researchers now believe, an intentional feature. The sleeping mind preferentially rehearsing and processing difficult emotional terrain, precisely because waking life rarely gives us the quiet space to do so. Joy exists in dreams too, though it appears less frequently than distress. When positive emotions do arise in dreams, warmth, love, delight, wonder, they tend to be gentle and diffuse, like soft light rather than a sudden bright flash. They rarely spike to the intensity that fear or grief can reach in dreams. This asymmetry between positive and negative dream emotion mirrors a broader pattern in human psychology, the brain. In general, processes negative experiences more deeply and persistently than positive ones. Sleep appears to amplify this tendency, turning the dreaming hours into something closer to an emotional maintenance system, one that prioritizes whatever most urgently needs to be understood or released. The part of your brain most responsible for emotional feeling is called the amygdala, a small, almond-shaped structure located deep in the temporal lobe, one on each side of the brain. During waking life, the amygdala acts as an emotional alarm system, flagging experiences that feel significant, dangerous, or meaningful. During REM sleep, the stage most associated with vivid dreaming, imaging studies show that the amygdala becomes remarkably active. In some studies, its activity during REM sleep exceeds its activity during emotionally charged waking experiences by around 30%. The dreaming brain does not quiet its emotional core. It amplifies it. REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement, is the stage during which most emotionally rich dreams occur. It was first documented scientifically in 1953 by researcher Eugene Aserinsky and his mentor Nathaniel Kleitman, who noticed that sleeping subjects' eyes moved rapidly beneath closed lids during distinct intervals of the night. When they woke people during these periods, vivid, emotionally complex dreams were consistently reported. In the decades since, REM sleep has become one of the most studied states in neuroscience. We now understand that during REM, the brain enters a state that is neurologically closer to wakefulness than to deep sleep, active, engaged, and flooded with emotion. During REM sleep, something unusual happens to the chemistry of the brain. The norepinephrine system, which during waking life helps regulate stress responses, vigilance, and the emotional weight we assign to experiences, goes almost completely quiet. Norepinephrine is one of the brain's primary alertness chemicals, and its suppression during REM creates a unique internal environment. Emotions can be felt, processed, and re-experienced, but without the sharp physiological sting that accompanies them during waking hours. Some researchers describe this as the brain's way of offering a safe container for emotional experience, feeling without the full force of threat, processing without re-traumatizing. The prefrontal cortex, the brain region most associated with rational thought, planning, and emotional regulation, is significantly less active during REM sleep than during waking life. This explains something many people have noticed about their dreams. They often make emotional sense, even when they make no logical sense at all. A dream can feel profoundly meaningful, even when its story is fragmented, impossible, or strange. The part of the brain that would normally evaluate and filter experience has stepped back. What remains is raw emotional processing, feeling without the constant editorial oversight of reason. Dreams appear to follow a kind of emotional grammar. Research examining large collections of dream reports, including databases of thousands of documented dreams analyzed through both qualitative and computational methods, finds consistent emotional patterns. Dreams rarely present a single, isolated emotion. Instead, they tend to layer emotions together in combinations that mirror real-life emotional complexity, anxiety, laced with longing, grief softened by a thread of peace, fear that contains within it a strange note of familiarity. The dreaming mind does not simplify emotional experience. It renders it in its full, layered, human texture. One of the most consistent findings in dream research is that the emotions we experience in dreams are physiologically real. When a dreamer experiences fear in a dream, the body responds, heart rate increases, breathing may quicken, stress hormones shift. When grief arises, tear ducts can activate. When joy appears, muscle tension softens. The brain does not distinguish, on a physiological level, between dreamed emotion and woken emotion. The body responds to both as genuine experience. This is why some people wake from certain dreams feeling genuinely rested and emotionally lighter, and why others wake feeling as exhausted or as sad as if something real had happened. So, the emotional language of dreams is already becoming clear. These are not passive impressions. They are active communications between different parts of the brain, between yesterday and tomorrow, between what we know consciously and what we carry without knowing. 10 facts into this journey, and we can already say with confidence your dreaming mind speaks in emotion for a reason. It is not confused, or broken, or meaningless. It is doing something deeply purposeful with the most important material your life has given it. And we are only just beginning to understand what that purpose is. Dreams do not only reflect the emotions of the day just past. Research shows that dreaming operates across a longer emotional timeline than that. Studies tracking emotional themes across dream journals kept over weeks and months reveal that dreams engage with emotional material from days, weeks, and sometimes months earlier. A grief not yet fully processed, a conflict left unresolved, a moment of joy not yet integrated. All of these can surface in dreams long after the original event. The dreaming mind keeps its own timetable. It returns to what still needs attention, regardless of how long ago the experience occurred. There is a well-documented phenomenon in sleep science called the dream lag effect. It describes a consistent pattern. Emotional memories from waking life appear most frequently in dreams, not the night immediately after they occur, but approximately 5 to 7 days later. The exact mechanism is still being studied, but researchers believe it reflects the brain's consolidation process. Emotions are not immediately archived, but are instead held in a kind of temporary processing space, cycling through sleep stages over multiple nights before being woven into longer-term emotional memory. Your dreams tonight may be quietly finishing work that began last week. Dreams draw on a surprisingly broad archive of emotional experience. When researchers ask dreamers to identify the emotional sources of their dreams, many report that the feelings in a dream did not originate with a specific memory, but rather with a general emotional pattern, a recurring feeling of inadequacy, a persistent background longing, an old and unnamed anxiety. Dreams seem to have access not just to specific memories, but to the emotional themes that run beneath them. They surface what is chronic, not just what is recent. The dreaming mind appears to understand the difference between an event and the feeling an event belongs to. Sleep deprivation has a measurable effect on emotional dreaming. Studies consistently show that when people are deprived of REM sleep specifically, through interrupted sleep, certain medications, or sleep disorders, they experience increased emotional reactivity during waking hours. Irritability rises. Minor frustrations feel larger. Emotional regulation becomes harder. And when REM sleep is restored, dream content often becomes more emotionally intense than usual, as if the brain is compensating for lost processing time. This phenomenon, sometimes called REM rebound, suggests that emotional dreaming is not optional. It is a biological need the brain will prioritize when given the chance. Anxiety is the single most commonly reported emotion in dreams across cultures and age groups. Cross-cultural dream research, including large-scale studies conducted across populations in North America, Europe, East Asia, and parts of South America, consistently finds anxiety at the top of the emotional frequency list. The scenarios that carry this anxiety vary enormously by culture and individual. Missed examinations, social failure, pursuit by an unknown figure, being unable to speak. But the underlying emotional signature remains consistent. The dreaming mind, it seems, shares a common emotional vocabulary across the enormous variety of human lives. Anxiety is its most frequently spoken word. Fear in dreams is neurologically distinct from fear in waking life in one important way in dreams. Fear is rarely accompanied by the full physiological mobilization of the fight or flight response. The body does not flood with adrenaline in the same concentrated way it would if the threatening situation were real. Researchers believe this is, in part, because the motor cortex, the region responsible for physical movement, is actively suppressed during REM sleep. The body is in a state called REM atonia, temporary muscle paralysis, preventing us from physically acting out our dreams. The emotion is felt, the body registers it, but the full mobilizing cascade is gentled. The feeling is real, the danger is contained. Grief in dreams is one of the most extensively documented phenomena in bereavement research. People who have lost someone they love frequently report dreaming of the deceased. And these dreams are almost universally described as emotionally powerful and significant. The emotional quality of these bereavement dreams shifts over time in predictable ways. In the early period after loss, dreams of the deceased are often distressing, fragmentary, or emotionally chaotic. Later, they tend to soften, becoming more peaceful, more conversational, even comforting. Many grieving individuals describe these later dreams as among the most healing experiences of their bereavement. The dreaming mind grieves on its own gentle timeline. Love appears in dreams in a way that is fascinatingly different from how it appears in waking life. In waking life, love is often accompanied by a kind of vigilance, attention to the loved one's responses, worry about the relationship, desire, uncertainty. In dreams, love tends to appear as a pure state of being, an unconditional warmth, a sense of belonging that requires no maintenance or negotiation. Dreamers frequently report the presence of loved ones, living or deceased, as simply comforting, the emotion uncluttered by the ordinary anxieties of relationship. Some researchers have described dreamed love as something close to an emotional ideal. Love as the brain believes it could feel, freed from the complexity of real-world attachment. Shame is one of the most frequently underreported dream emotions, likely because people are reluctant to describe it, even in anonymous research contexts. But analysis of dream content suggests it appears often in social exposure dreams, failure dreams, and a category of dream where the dreamer finds themselves doing or saying something they would never consciously choose. Shame in dreams can be particularly disorienting because, unlike fear, it does not come with a clear external threat. It comes from within. Researchers studying the emotional content of shame dreams suggest they may be the brain's way of rehearsing and gradually desensitizing itself to experiences of social judgment and self-exposure. Curiosity is a surprisingly common emotional note in dreams, one that is easy to overlook because it doesn't carry the dramatic weight of fear or grief. But many dream reports contain descriptions of moving through an unknown space, examining something unusual, or following a thread of interest without knowing where it leads. This dreamed curiosity appears to activate some of the same neural networks as waking curiosity, particularly those associated with reward and exploration. Sleep scientists interested in the relationship between creativity and dreaming have noted that curiosity dreams often precede moments of insight or problem-solving upon waking. The dreaming mind, even in its gentlest emotional register, is exploring. Dreams have been proposed as one of the brain's primary mechanisms for emotional memory reconsolidation, a process by which emotional memories are not simply stored as they were first experienced, but are gradually reshaped over time. Every time a memory is recalled, including during sleep, it enters a briefly malleable state before being restabilized. Dreaming, which draws on emotional memories in fragmented and associative ways, may allow these memories to be reconsolidated with subtly different emotional qualities. A memory that initially felt overwhelming might, through repeated nightly tending, come to feel more integrated, less sharp, more bearable. Time heals. But sleep, it seems, is where that healing actually happens. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, offers some of the clearest evidence that dreams are doing genuine emotional work. Because in PTSD, that process becomes interrupted in a specific, recognizable pattern. Nightmares are one of the defining features of PTSD, and research has shown that these nightmares are not simply replays of traumatic events. They are stalled attempts at emotional processing. The normal REM mechanism, which should gradually reduce the emotional charge of difficult memories, appears disrupted in trauma. Rather than becoming less intense over time, trauma-related dreams can become more so. Understanding this has led to effective therapeutic approaches, including image rehearsal therapy, which help the brain resume the emotional nightly work that trauma interrupted. Across healthy dreamers, people without trauma histories or sleep disorders, the emotional arc of a single dream often moves toward resolution. Studies asking people to report not just the emotional content of their dreams, but its trajectory, how emotions shifted within the dream itself, find that many dreams begin in emotional tension and move, however partially or imperfectly, towards some form of emotional release or acceptance by the dream's end. Not every dream achieves this resolution, but the tendency is there. The dreaming mind appears to be trying to complete something, to find an emotional landing point, even when the story it constructs to do so makes no rational sense at all. The emotional content of dreams is influenced by the temperature of the room you sleep in. Research linking sleep environment to sleep quality consistently finds that warmer sleeping conditions, those warm enough to prevent the body from cooling efficiently, are associated with lighter, more fragmented sleep and, with it, more emotionally unsettled dream experiences. The body sleeps most peacefully and most deeply when the room allows it to cool naturally through the night. Comfort, it turns out, is not only physical, it quietly shapes the emotional world you enter when you close your eyes. 25 facts into our journey, and a picture has already formed. The emotional language of dreams is not accidental. It is not noise. It is a carefully orchestrated system, one involving specific brain regions, specific neurochemicals, specific sleep stages, all working together to process the emotional content of a life. The amygdala speaks loudly when the prefrontal cortex quiets. The body responds to dreamed emotion as if it were real. Anxiety, grief, love, shame, curiosity, all find their way into the dreaming space for reasons that are beginning to make profound sense. And we have only reached the first act of this long, gentle story. Rest with what you've learned so far. There is more ahead. Let's pause here and notice your body. Right now, as you breathe out slowly, your brain is sorting today, deciding what to keep, what to soften, what to let go. You don't need to help it. It knows exactly what to do. Trillions of processes are unfolding in silence. Your heart beating, your breath moving, your nervous system already beginning to descend. Notice the gentle weight of your body, the places where you are held. You don't need to do anything with what you've just heard. Simply let it rest in you. Now we continue. Dreams may function as a form of overnight therapy. This phrase, offered by neuroscientist Matthew Walker, drawing on findings from his research at the University of California, Berkeley, captures something that brain imaging studies have increasingly supported. During REM sleep, the amygdala reactivates emotional memories. But in the neurochemical context of suppressed norepinephrine, the hypothesis is that this allows the brain to re-experience emotionally charged memories without the physiological stress response that accompanied the original event. Over time, repeated dreaming of distressing experiences may gradually reduce their emotional charge, not by erasing them, but by tending to them in a gentler internal environment. Sleep, in this way, may be one of the most powerful natural emotional medicines available to us. The relationship between dreams and emotional regulation has been studied extensively using mood assessments before and after sleep. Participants who report higher REM sleep quality consistently show better emotional regulation in laboratory tasks the following day. They recover more quickly from negative stimuli, show more flexible thinking in emotionally challenging situations, and report lower baseline levels of anxiety. These effects appear specific to REM sleep. Improved deep sleep without corresponding REM improvement does not show the same emotional benefits. The conclusion researchers have reached is careful but consistent quality REM sleep, and the nightly emotional work it contains plays a specific and non-replaceable role in well-being. Dreams appear to help the brain integrate new emotional experiences with existing emotional memories, building what some researchers describe as an emotional context library. When we encounter something new, a new loss, a new relationship, a new fear, the brain searches for emotional precedent. What have I felt before that resembles this during REM sleep? The hippocampus, a structure central to memory consolidation, communicates actively with the amygdala. This dialogue between memory and emotion during dreaming appears to be how new experiences are woven into the broader fabric of our emotional understanding of the world. Each dream is, in a small way, an act of meaning-making. The emotional content of dreams is closely linked to our dominant concerns during waking life, but not always in direct or obvious ways. A phenomenon called the continuity hypothesis suggests that dream content broadly reflects waking life preoccupations. However, this reflection is rarely literal. A person anxious about a workplace conflict may not dream of the conflict itself, but may dream of being unable to find a familiar door, or of speaking and being ignored. The emotional essence is carried. The specific scenario is translated. The dreaming mind communicates in metaphor as naturally and fluently as it communicates in image. It is, at its core, a poetic organ. Dreams may help us prepare emotionally for future challenges, a process researchers call emotional simulation. During dreaming, particularly in REM sleep, the brain constructs emotionally charged scenarios that often involve social situations, physical threat, loss, or conflict. Evolutionary theorists have proposed that this serves as a kind of emotional rehearsal, a safe space to practice feeling and surviving difficult emotional experiences before they arrive in waking life. This would explain why threatening dreams are so common, and why they are not, despite their unpleasantness, considered signs of difficulty in healthy dreamers. The dreaming mind is, in this view, an emotional preparation system that has been quietly running throughout human history. Creativity is deeply connected to the emotional labor of dreams. Researchers found that REM sleep in particular enhances the brain's ability to find non-obvious connections between pieces of information, a cognitive flexibility that underlies creative insight. But the mechanism appears to be emotional as much as intellectual. When emotional associations between memories are loosened during REM, when the usual hierarchies of significance are relaxed, previously unconnected ideas can come into contact with each other. The emotional fluidity of dreaming creates the conditions for creative leaps. Many artists, writers, and scientists have described receiving insight through dreams, and contemporary neuroscience has begun to explain why this is not merely metaphor. The emotional quality of a dream shifts over the course of a single night. Early REM periods, which tend to be shorter and occur in the first half of the night, are associated with more fragmented, anxiety-tinged content. Later REM periods, longer, richer, and occurring in the second half of the night, tend to produce more complex, emotionally nuanced, and sometimes more resolved dream experiences. This is one reason why the hours of sleep closest to morning are often the most vividly remembered, and why sleeping through the full night, rather than cutting sleep short in the early hours, may be particularly important for emotional well-being. The deepest emotional tending happens late. People who report being unable to remember their dreams, which is common and entirely normal, still appear to receive the emotional benefits of dreaming. Brain activity studies confirm that REM sleep proceeds normally in people with low dream recall. The nightly emotional work that REM provides does not depend on conscious access to dream content. You do not need to remember your dreams in order for them to do their work. The emotional regulation, the memory reconsolidation, the preparation for the next day's challenges, all of this appears to happen whether or not the dream surfaces into waking awareness. Dreaming serves you in silence. Whether or not you are listening, social emotions, emotions that arise specifically in the context of our relationships with others, are among the most common dream emotions documented in research. Dreams of being rejected, abandoned, misunderstood, or unseen by people who matter to us are extraordinarily common. So are dreams of deep connection, of being held or recognized, of reunion. The social brain, which in waking life navigates the complex emotional landscape of belonging and attachment, does not rest during dreaming. It continues to tend, to rehearse, to worry, and to hope. Our dreams are, in a very real sense, populated by the people we love, fear, miss, and need. They do not leave us. Even when we sleep, dream emotions are felt differently depending on which part of the dream they arise in. Research analyzing dream narratives in detail has found that emotions experienced at the beginning of a dream tend to be low-grade. Ambient feelings, a background unease, a diffuse warmth, a vague sense of anticipation. As the dream develops, emotional intensity rises, and at the moment of waking, which is often triggered by a peak of emotional arousal, the feeling is at its sharpest. This is why the emotion of a dream is most clearly felt in the final moment before waking. The dreaming mind, like a careful storyteller, builds toward its emotional peak. The emotion of awe appears in dreams with greater frequency than is typically captured by anxiety-focused dream research. Studies that specifically measure awe, defined as the experience of encountering something vast that challenges one's existing understanding, find it reported reliably in dream accounts. Dreams of infinite spaces, of encounters with presences felt to be enormously significant, of moments of sudden and wordless understanding, all carry the emotional signature of awe. Awe-inducing dreams are consistently rated among the most memorable and emotionally significant by those who report them. They appear to leave a residue of perspective, a sense, however fleeting, that ordinary concerns are small against something larger. There is evidence that the emotional language of dreams is influenced by musical experience. Musicians, particularly those who have trained for many years, show differences in dream content that appear linked to their emotional relationship with music. They report more frequent auditory dream experiences, more emotionally complex musical events within dreams, and a higher rate of creative musical ideas arising from dreaming. This is consistent with broader findings that highly trained perceptual skills leave traces in the dreaming mind. Whatever we practice in waking life, whatever we have made emotionally meaningful, the dreaming mind honors it in its own quiet way. Disgust, while less studied than fear or grief in dream research, appears in dream content in ways that reveal something interesting about how the dreaming mind tends to emotional life. Disgust in dreams is rarely tied to genuinely unpleasant objects in the way fear ties to threatening ones. Instead, dream disgust often appears in response to social or moral violations, situations that feel wrong, contaminating, or incompatible with the dreamer's values. Researchers have proposed that this kind of dream disgust may function as a gentle recalibration of the moral self, a way of reinforcing, during sleep, the values and boundaries that define who we are and how we wish to move through the world. The emotional experience of a dream is not always attributable to identifiable causes within the dream itself. Dreamers frequently report feeling an emotion without knowing why, a profound sadness with no source, a surge of joy that arises from nowhere, a sense of loss attached to nothing the dream has shown. This experience of sourceless emotion in dreams has been studied as a potential window into what researchers call background effect, the baseline emotional states that run beneath conscious awareness during waking life. Dreams, freed from the narrative logic that governs waking experience, may allow these background emotional states to surface and be felt more directly. What we carry without knowing, we sometimes meet in dreams. 40 facts into this journey, and the evidence for the purposeful emotional work of dreams has become something difficult to dismiss. Dreams are not random. They are not noise. They are not mere replays. They are a sophisticated biological system for managing one of the most complex aspects of being human, our emotional life. They tend to what is difficult. They rehearse what is feared. They integrate what is new. They honor what we love. And they do all of this quietly, in the dark. While the part of us that worries and plans and judges is mercifully resting, something in you is being cared for. Even now, especially now, take a slow breath. Notice how your body feels right now. Perhaps a little heavier, a little softer than when we began. We're exploring the emotional world inside your own dreaming mind. Together, in the quiet dark, strange and tender and real. Let's continue. The relationship between waking emotional state and dream emotional content flows in both directions. Waking anxiety tends to produce more fearful dreams, but more fearful dreams, in healthy dreamers, tend to reduce waking anxiety the following day, as if the emotional charge has been partially released through the dreaming process. Conversely, waking contentment and emotional security are associated with more positively toned dreams, which in turn reinforce emotional resilience. Sleep researchers describe this as a regulatory feedback loop between waking and dreaming emotional states. The emotional tone of your life and the emotional tone of your dreams are in constant, quiet conversation with each other. Dreams appear to give special attention to the emotions we are least able to tend to while awake. Psychological defenses. The habits of minimizing, rationalizing, avoiding, or suppressing difficult feelings operate most powerfully during conscious waking life, where the prefrontal cortex maintains its oversight. During REM sleep, with prefrontal activity reduced, these defenses relax. Emotions that were kept at arm's length during the day may surface freely in dreams. This is why people sometimes report dreaming with great emotional intensity about things they believed they had already resolved, or about feelings they did not know they were carrying. Dreams offer access to emotional territory that waking life sometimes cannot reach. Recurring dreams. Those that repeat similar scenarios across multiple nights or across years, almost always carry a consistent emotional theme, even when the specific imagery changes. A person who dreams repeatedly of failing an examination may, over time, report different settings, different subjects, different surrounding characters, but the emotion remains inadequacy. Exposure. The fear of being found wanting. Research examining recurring dreams finds that they tend to persist as long as the underlying emotional concern remains unaddressed in waking life, and to diminish or disappear when that concern is met, either through life change or through gentle, deliberate reflection. Recurring dreams are not stuck. They are patient. They are waiting. The emotional content of dreams changes meaningfully across the lifespan. Children's dreams, particularly in early childhood, are more frequently characterized by vivid fear of threatening animals and overwhelming presences, which may reflect the developmental emotional weight of vulnerability. Adolescent dreams show increased social and relational content, reflecting that period's preoccupation with belonging and identity. Adult dreams show more nuanced emotional complexity, blended feelings, moral ambiguity, emotional relationships with the past. And in older age, research has found a gradual shift toward more positive dream emotion, more warmth, more acceptance, fewer acute fears. The emotional language of dreams, it appears, matures quietly alongside us. Lucid dreaming. The state of being aware that one is dreaming while the dream continues, has a complex and quietly promising relationship with emotional healing. Lucid dreamers sometimes report using their awareness to orient dreams away from distressing emotional content, or toward experiences of connection and peace. This has led to therapeutic interest in lucid dreaming as a potential tool for people suffering from chronic nightmares, including nightmare-related symptoms in PTSD. Early pilot studies have examined lucid dreaming induction techniques, including reality testing and mnemonic induction methods, with cautiously encouraging initial findings. Though the research remains in its early stages, the possibility of bringing gentle awareness into the emotional world of the dream carries real and growing interest. The emotion of nostalgia appears in dreams in a way that is neurologically interesting. Nostalgia, defined by researchers as a primarily positive emotion centered on a bittersweet longing for a valued past. Activates neural circuits associated with both reward and social connection. In dreams, nostalgic experiences. Returning to childhood homes, meeting people long lost, inhabiting earlier versions of one's life, are among the most emotionally vivid and, upon waking, the most difficult to release. Dream nostalgia may serve an integrative function, helping the brain maintain the emotional coherence of the self across time, connecting who we were with who we are becoming. There is a well-documented relationship between emotional stress during waking life and the depth of emotional dreaming during the following nights. This has been studied most carefully in populations experiencing shared challenges. Students during examination periods, people navigating job loss, communities affected by collective difficulty. In each case, researchers find measurable increases in emotionally intense dream content during periods of heightened waking stress. What is important to notice is that this deepening appears to be a healthy response. The brain quietly allocating more care during sleep to meet what the day has asked of you. Vivid, emotionally alive dreams during difficult times are not a sign that something is wrong. They are a sign that something is working. Emotional suppression during waking life. The habitual effort to not feel certain emotions appears to increase the emotional depth of dreaming. Studies examining individuals who tend towards suppression find that these individuals report more emotionally intense dreams and more frequent nightmares than those who allow freer emotional expression during waking hours. This finding carries a gentle implication. What is not felt during the day does not disappear. It relocates. The emotions we set aside in waking life may wait for us in the dark, not as judgment, but as persistence. The dreaming mind is, in its patient way, committed to completion. Dreams involving the sense of smell, olfactory dreams, are relatively rare, but when they occur, they carry unusually intense emotional weight. This is consistent with the neurological relationship between smell and emotion. The olfactory system has direct connections to the amygdala and hippocampus that bypass the thalamus, the brain's sensory relay station, making smell-triggered memories among the most emotionally immediate we experience. When smell appears in a dream, it arrives with the full emotional history attached to it. The scent of a person no longer present, the smell of a home no longer lived in, a single olfactory note, and the dream fills with feeling. Halfway through our quiet journey tonight, something has become clear. Dreams do not merely reflect our emotional lives. They actively participate in shaping them. What we feel in dreams changes how we feel when we wake. How we feel when we wake shapes what we dream. This is not a passive relationship. It is an ongoing dialogue between the sleeping mind and the waking heart. The emotional language of dreams is not a side effect of sleep. It is one of sleep's central purposes, a purpose so fundamental that the brain will set aside other things before it gives up dreaming. You are, right now, in the middle of that purpose. You are being taken care of. Every memory you hold most dearly is slightly different from what actually happened. Each time you remember, your brain rewrites it, subtly, gently, toward what matters most to you about it. Dreaming does this too. It softens what is sharp. It integrates what is new. It carries forward only what you truly need. Right now, your brain is deciding what today meant. You don't need to help it. It has been doing this for your entire life. And we continue the journey. The emotional language of dreams is not as private as we might assume. Research using shared dream analysis, where people in close relationships independently record their dreams and then compare them, has found meaningful emotional convergences. Partners going through a shared difficult experience often dream of related emotional themes on the same nights, even when their dream narratives are entirely different. The emotional environment of a relationship, it appears, finds its way into the dreams of everyone within it. We are more emotionally connected to the people we live alongside than our individual dream journals would suggest. The brain's default mode network, a set of regions that activate during self-referential thought, daydreaming, and mind-wandering, is highly active during REM sleep. This network, which includes the medial prefrontal cortex and the posterior cingulate cortex, is most associated with thinking about ourselves, our pasts, our relationships, and our futures. During dreaming, this network weaves emotional memory with self-narrative, connecting what has happened to who we are. Dreams, in this view, are not departures from the self. They are among the places where the self is most actively constructed and quietly maintained. Emotional healing from interpersonal wounds, arguments, betrayals, losses of trust, appears to be significantly supported by sleep. Studies tracking emotional recovery from social conflict find that people who sleep well in the nights following an interpersonal wound show faster and more complete emotional recovery than those who sleep poorly. The mechanism appears to involve REM sleep's role in reconsolidating emotionally charged social memories, softening the sharpest edges of hurt, and integrating the experience into a broader understanding of the relationship. Sleep does not make us forget what hurt us. It helps us carry it differently. The capacity for empathy, for feeling what another person feels, appears to be renewed by REM sleep. Research has found that sleep deprivation, particularly REM deprivation, measurably reduces scores on standard empathy assessments. Conversely, high-quality REM sleep is associated with increased ability to accurately read others' emotions, to take others' perspectives, and to respond with appropriate attunement. Dreams, which so frequently place us in emotionally complex social situations, where we must navigate the feelings of others without the usual cognitive resources, may serve as a nightly practice ground for the social-emotional skills we draw on throughout our waking lives. The emotional content of dreams is shaped, in part, by what we experience before sleep, and this influence is emotional, not merely cognitive. Research finds that watching emotionally charged content in the hours before sleep, whether distressing news, emotionally intense films, or unsettling material, increases the emotional intensity and negative quality of subsequent dreams. Conversely, gentle, emotionally warm content, calm conversation, quiet music, peaceful reading, is associated with more neutral or positive dream tone. The emotional environment we create for ourselves in the hour before sleep becomes, in some measure, the emotional environment we carry into our dreams. The transition into sleep is a gentle thing, and it is worth treating it that way. Fear of death, one of the most profound emotional preoccupations of human consciousness, finds its way into dreams in ways that have been documented across cultures and across centuries. Dreams involving the dreamer's own death are common and, interestingly, rarely experienced with the full weight that the waking mind attaches to the concept. In dream research, reports of one's own death in dreams are often described with a quality closer to curiosity or acceptance than to terror. Some researchers who study attitudes toward mortality have proposed that repeated dreamed encounters with the idea of death may gradually reduce its emotional charge. Dreams may be, among their many functions, a place where we practice letting go. The emotional depth of a dream appears to predict how likely it is to be remembered upon waking. Studies examining dream recall consistently find that emotional arousal during the dream is the strongest predictor of whether the dream will be retained in memory. Neutral or low-emotion dreams are almost universally forgotten within minutes of waking. Emotionally rich dreams, particularly those involving fear, grief, or awe, are far more likely to persist in memory, sometimes for days or years. The dreaming mind does not file experience indiscriminately. What it has worked hardest on, what it has tended most carefully, it leaves as close to the surface as possible, where waking awareness can find it. There is a quiet connection between the nightly emotional work of dreaming and physical health. We know that sleep deprivation, particularly of REM sleep, measurably disrupts immune function, including the regulation of cytokines, the proteins that coordinate the body's response to stress and infection. Whether the emotional tending that happens during REM sleep is itself part of what supports physical resilience remains an area of active research. But the relationship between emotional rest and physical health, at the level of sleep, is becoming increasingly difficult to separate. What the dreaming mind carries quietly, the body carries too: forgiveness. The emotional process of releasing resentment towards someone who has caused harm has been linked to dream experience in qualitative research. Individuals who describe successful forgiveness frequently report that a shift in their dreaming relationship with the person or event preceded or accompanied their waking experience of letting go. Dreams of resolution, of peaceful encounter, of releasing the figure associated with hurt. These appear, in some cases, to arrive before the conscious decision to forgive has fully formed, as if the dreaming mind reaches forgiveness first, and the waking mind, in its own time, follows. The emotional experience of wonder, perceiving something as vast and not yet fully understood, has a measurable effect on sleep quality and dream experience. Research has found that inducing awe-related experiences during the day, through time in nature, encounters with art, or moments of intellectual vastness, is associated with improved sleep quality the following night, particularly in REM duration. R appears to calm the self-referential, self-preoccupied activity of the default mode network, quieting what might be called the mind's constant narration. And this quieting, carried into sleep, may create more spacious conditions for emotional dreaming. Beauty, it appears, is good for sleep. Animals dream. The evidence for this has accumulated across decades of sleep research and is now considered scientific consensus for most land mammals. EEG studies in rats, dogs, cats, and elephants show clear REM-like sleep stages, often accompanied by physical movements suggesting vivid internal experience. In rats, recordings from hippocampal place cells, neurons that fire in response to specific locations, show the same firing patterns during sleep as during maze-running experiences earlier that day. The animals appear to be replaying, and presumably tending to, their experiences. Whether cetaceans like dolphins follow the same pattern remains an open and fascinating question. Their sleep is uniquely structured, with one hemisphere resting while the other stays alert. But the biological foundations for emotional dreaming appear to predate us by millions of years. The experience of being unable to speak in a dream, finding oneself trying to call out and producing no sound, or speaking words that seem to carry no weight, is one of the most universally reported dream experiences. It appears across cultures and frequently in anxiety-themed dreams. From an emotional standpoint, this voicelessness may reflect a processing of the experience of not being heard, of feelings that found no outlet, a mouth opening into silence. Some feelings, too large for waking words, find their form in sleep, and in finding that form, however strange, they begin to release. The emotion of gratitude, studied extensively for its effects on well-being, has a gentle relationship with dreaming. People who maintain regular gratitude practices during waking life, journaling, reflection, deliberate attention to what is good, show measurable differences in dream content. Over time, slightly higher rates of positive dream emotion, slightly lower rates of distressing dreams. Researchers speculate that gratitude practices may influence which emotional memories are most available for the dreaming mind to tend to, tilting the archive, however gently, toward what has been valued and appreciated. The emotional climax of a dream, the point of highest emotional depth, is often the point at which the dream ends and waking begins. Sleep researchers call this a spontaneous awakening, and it appears to be triggered, at least in part, by emotional arousal reaching a threshold that activates waking consciousness. This is why so many people report waking from a dream at the most heightened moment, just before resolution, or at the peak of feeling. The brain appears to use emotional depth as a signal to return to waking awareness, carrying that peak as close to consciousness as it can, as if gently handing it over to be considered in daylight. The emotional language of dreams includes a dimension of color. Research on color in dreams now generally supports that most people dream in color, and that color carries emotional meaning within the dream. Warm colors, reds, oranges, yellows, appear more frequently in emotionally heightened dreams, particularly those involving anxiety or arousal. Cool colors, blues, greens, appear more in dreams that carry emotional tones of calm, sadness, or quiet distance. Color in this way is part of how the dreaming mind speaks its emotional language, painting in feeling as much as in image. Even the palette of a dream is telling us something. There is an emotional quality to the physical sensations of dreams: falling, flying, being unable to run, moving through something thick and resistant, that maps consistently onto emotional states in waking life. The feeling of falling in a dream is almost universally associated with anxiety or a sense of lost footing. The feeling of flying tends to accompany emotions of freedom or transcendence. The inability to move reflects a sense of helplessness or waiting. The dreaming mind translates emotional states into the language of the body in motion. It is, in this sense, a profoundly physical form of emotional expression. Dreams of the ocean. Among the most commonly reported nature-themed dreams, carry a consistent emotional signature. Analysis of large dream databases finds that ocean dreams are most frequently associated with emotions of vastness, freedom, awe, and, depending on sea conditions, a gentle anxiety about what cannot be seen or controlled. When water appears in dreams, it almost always carries emotional weight. The ocean does not appear in dreams idly. It brings with it something larger than the dreamer, an emotional encounter with scale, with depth, with the feeling of being held by something that requires nothing in return. The relationship between chronic pain and dream emotion has become an increasingly important area of sleep research. People living with chronic pain conditions show measurably altered dream content. More frequent dreams involving physical limitation, loss of capability, or entrapment, and higher rates of negative dream emotion overall. The emotional burden of persistent pain does not stay within the hours of waking. It enters the dreaming space and quietly reshapes it. Importantly, however, improving sleep quality in people with chronic pain through gentle behavioral sleep approaches has been shown to improve both nighttime dream distress and daytime emotional steadiness. Care for sleep is, in this way, a form of care for the whole person. The emotional landscape of dreams appears to be one of the most culturally consistent aspects of human experience. While the specific imagery of dreams varies significantly by culture, the particular settings, evisto, and scenarios, the underlying emotional content shows remarkable similarity across vastly different human contexts. Fear, grief, longing, love, shame. These appear in dreams, documented from enormously varied cultural backgrounds with comparable frequency and feeling quality. This consistency suggests that the emotional language of dreams is rooted in something deeper than culture, in the biology of a brain that has been dreaming and feeling and tending to its inner life for far longer than any human civilization has existed. The word nightmare has its origins in a time when people believed that malicious spirits pressed upon sleepers and produced terrifying dreams. While the spirit has long since been understood differently, the emotional experience it named has not changed. Nightmares remain one of the most distressing experiences available to the sleeping mind, and one of the most common. Approximately 85% of adults report having at least one nightmare in the past year. For a smaller percentage, around 4%, Nightmares are chronic and significantly disruptive. The experience of deep distress in sleep is not rare. It is nearly universal, and it is, in its own way, a sign of a mind that is still trying. Nightmares are distinguished from ordinary distressing dreams by their depth of feeling, their capacity to wake the dreamer, and the distress they produce upon waking. Research has found that nightmares show distinct physiological signatures: greater heart rate increases, more pronounced physiological responses than ordinary anxiety dreams. They are not simply difficult dreams made more so. They appear to be a qualitatively different emotional experience. And yet even nightmares may serve a function. In those without clinical-level nightmare disorder, deeply frightening dreams appear to be part of the normal range of emotional experience. The dreaming mind working at the edges of what it can tend to, reaching for resolution even when it cannot quite arrive. Emotional disclosure, the act of talking or writing about emotionally significant experiences, improves dream quality. Research has found that expressive writing about emotionally difficult experiences produces measurable improvements in sleep quality, including reduced nightmare frequency and more positive dream tone. In the weeks following the practice, the mechanism appears to involve the same emotional regulatory pathway that operates during REM sleep. Giving narrative form to difficult emotions during waking life reduces the emotional weight that the dreaming mind must tend to during sleep. Writing, in this way, does some of dreaming's work, and the dreams can rest a little easier. The figure of the shadow, the pursuing, threatening, or deeply unsettling presence that appears in many anxiety dreams, carries a consistent emotional function, whatever form it takes. It holds the emotional weight of whatever the dreamer has found hardest to face. Research on approach and avoidance in dreams finds that dreamers who turn toward threatening figures, who face rather than flee, report more resolved emotional states upon waking than those whose dreams end in flight or abrupt waking before any contact. The dreaming mind, it seems, rewards emotional courage with something approaching peace. The emotional quality of a dream's ending, whether it resolves, trails off, or cuts abruptly to waking, appears to influence the dreamer's emotional state throughout the following day. Dreams ending with some form of resolution or emotional completion are associated with steadier morning mood, lower morning anxiety, and more resilient emotional regulation during the following waking hours. Dreams ending at a point of peak distress, the awakening that stops the dream at its most heightened moment, are associated with a lingering quality of feeling that can persist for hours. How the dream ends matters, and knowing this may help us treat those difficult morning feelings with a little more gentleness. 75 facts into our journey. And the picture is not just clear, it is profound. The emotional language of dreams is real. It is biological. It is purposeful. It tends to what we cannot face in daylight. It prepares us for what tomorrow will ask of us. It integrates what happened with who we are becoming. It connects us to people we love, even in their absence. It rehearses, heals, grieves, and wonders. And it does all of this in the most intimate possible space, in the privacy of our own sleeping minds, in the hours when the world has gone quiet. The emotional life of your dreams is not separate from the emotional life of your waking days. It is continuous with it. It is completing it. Sleep does not arrive when you try to bring it. It arrives when you stop trying. Right now. Your body knows exactly what to do. Your brain knows the way. It has been walking this path every night of your life. You don't need to think about what you heard tonight. You don't need to hold any of it. Just feel the permission to let go. This is exactly that moment. Let go. We're almost there now. Dreams carry the emotional signatures of our entire lives, not just the recent ones. Researchers have documented the presence of childhood emotional memories in the dreams of older adults, surfacing decades after the original experiences. Old friendships, childhood homes, long-forgotten fears. The dreaming mind keeps a long archive. It does not forget what mattered. It holds it, quietly, until the right night comes to return to it. The emotion of longing, that ache for something or someone that is absent, appears in dreams with a specificity that quietly moves researchers. Dreams of longing are not vague. They are precise. A specific face, a particular place, a moment that cannot be returned to. The dreaming mind holds the exact shape of what we miss, and it lets us feel it, cleanly, in the safety of sleep. People who have experienced profound loss frequently report that their deepest emotional tending of that loss happens not in waking hours, but in dreams. The dream offers what waking life cannot always provide: the presence of what is gone, held in the soft logic of sleep, where nothing needs to be explained or justified, just felt, just honored, just held. The emotion of peace, genuine, unhurried, uncomplicated peace, appears in dreams most often in the final hours of sleep, during the richest and longest REM periods of the night. Peace in dreams is quiet. It does not announce itself. It simply is. A warm stillness that surrounds the dream's images and softens every edge. This is the emotional territory we are moving toward. Even now, every person hearing this has had a dream that stayed with them. A dream that felt, somehow, more real than ordinary memory, more meaningful than ordinary experience. These dreams are sometimes called significant dreams in psychological literature. They arrive when the dreaming mind has something important to tend to, and they wait, patiently, to be understood. The feeling of being held, of safety, of containment, of warmth, appears in dreams across every age group studied. Young children dream of being held by parents. Adults dream of warmth and shelter. Older adults dream of familiar presences that carry no threat. The longing for safety is woven into our emotional nature from the beginning, and the dreaming mind honors it. It knows we need, sometimes, to be held by something larger than words. Acceptance, the emotional state of allowing what is to simply be, is among the rarest emotions in early dream content and among the most common in the dreams reported by people who have done significant emotional work. Through time, through loss, through gentle and sustained reflection. Acceptance is not where the dreaming mind begins. It is, given enough care and enough nights, where the dreaming mind arrives. The body knows things that the mind has not yet named. This is particularly visible in dream emotion. Physical sensations in dreams, a warmth in the chest, a release of tension in the throat, a heaviness that eases, often precede the cognitive awareness of an emotional shift. The body, in dreams, speaks first. And when we learn to listen to the body's dream language, we often find that it has understood something we were still working toward. Wonder, awe, and the feeling of something larger, the emotions at the furthest reaches of ordinary feeling, appear in dreams with a consistency that suggests they are not simply side effects of unusual imagery. They appear to be states that the dreaming mind reaches toward, as if the capacity for feeling, freed from the constraints of waking logic, naturally expands toward what is most vast and most mysterious. The dreaming mind is not afraid of vastness. It moves toward it. The emotional language of dreams is not just about what we feel. It is about what we are. The brain that constructs emotional experience during sleep is the same brain that constructs our sense of self during waking hours. Dreams reveal the emotional ground of identity, the feelings that run beneath personality, beneath role, beneath the version of ourselves we present to the world. In dreams, that surface grows quiet. What remains is something more elemental and more true. Forgiveness in dreams has a quality unlike forgiveness in waking life. Waking forgiveness is often effortful, revisited, redecided. Dream forgiveness arrives without effort. A figure you have struggled to release appears in a dream, and something has simply shifted. The anger is gone, or the grief, and you wake carrying that shift, unsure of how it happened, grateful that it did. The emotional work of dreams is cumulative. A single night's dreaming does not resolve what took years to accumulate, but over months, over years, over a lifetime of nights, the nightly tending of sleep adds up to something enormous. We arrive at the emotional steadiness of older age not only through experience, but through the slow, patient care of 10,000 nights of dreaming. Sleep builds the self over time, emotion by emotion, night by night. There is something in the experience of a good dream, one that leaves you feeling, upon waking, that something was resolved or visited or completed, that feels like a gift, not from yourself, exactly, from some other version of you that works while you rest, a version that is less guarded, more honest, more patient with what needs to be felt. That version of you is real. It works every night. It has always been working. The sadness that sometimes lingers after a particularly vivid dream is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that the dreaming mind touched something real, and that you are carrying the residue of that contact back into waking life. The right response to dream sadness is not to dismiss it. It is to let it exist for a little while. It has something to say, and it will not need long. 90 facts in. The answer to the question we began with is becoming clear. What has the emotional language of your dreams been trying to tell you all along? Perhaps simply this, that you are being taken care of, even when you are not aware of it. That the most difficult emotions are not abandoned in sleep, but attended to, with great care, by a part of you that never stops tending. That your inner life is held, and valued and worked on every single night. The connection in dreams is real. When you dream of someone you love, the warmth you feel is neurologically genuine. The neural circuits of attachment, of care, of belonging. They activate in dreams just as they activate in waking presence. The people who matter to you are present with you in sleep, not as copies or shadows, but as the emotional truth of who they are to you, held carefully in a dreaming mind that does not forget what love is. The emotion that underlies all emotional dreaming, the ground on which all other dream feelings rest, may be something very close to care. The dreaming mind does not tend to emotions because it has nothing else to do. It tends to them because they matter, because you matter, because the life you are living, with all its weight and warmth and complexity, is worth attending to. The care that runs through the emotional language of dreams is the care of a mind committed to your wholeness. In the final stretch of sleep, those long, dream-rich REM periods in the early morning, something shifts. The emotional tone becomes more integrated. The feelings become less sharp and more resonant. The dreaming mind, which began the night in the mode of careful tending, moves towards something quieter. It is finishing its work. It is resting into what it has done. So, perhaps, are you? The emotional language of dreams has been spoken every night of your life. In infancy, when your newborn brain spent much of its sleep in states resembling REM. In childhood, when fear and wonder took turns filling your sleeping hours. Through grief, through love, through the long middle years of a life, your dreaming mind has accompanied every chapter. It has not once abandoned you to face an emotion alone. Even the emotions you could not name during the day were named. In their way, in the quiet of your sleep, 100 facts. And the last one is the simplest. Dreams speak in emotion, because emotion is the deepest language available to the human mind. Not words, not images. Feeling. The feeling that a thing is true, that someone is loved, that something is over, or beginning, or possible. The dreaming mind speaks in feeling, because feeling is what we are made of. Underneath everything else, the stories change, the images shift, but the feelings, patient, persistent, quietly luminous, remain, and so do you. And so our quiet journey through the emotional language of dreams comes gently to a close. We began with the finding that the amygdala fires with greater intensity during dreaming than in waking life. And we discovered that this is not a malfunction. It is a feature, an act of care. We passed through the dream lag effect, the way emotional memories return to be tended not the next night, but 5 to 7 nights later. A reminder that the dreaming mind keeps its own patient timetable. And we arrived here at the understanding that every night, without your awareness or effort, a part of you is attending to the emotional life you are living, with diligence, with something that, if it were visible, would look very much like tenderness. If dreams speak in the language of feeling rather than fact, then perhaps what they have always been trying to tell us is this, that you have not been alone in any of it. Not in the grief, not in the fear, not in the longing. Something in you has been listening. and working and caring every single night of your life. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about the unity of every feeling you have ever had, every wave of grief, every thread of joy, every quiet moment of peace, all of it held within the same dreaming mind, all of it tended every night. In the dark, you are not the sum of your unfinished emotions. You are what emerges when they have been cared for. Let your entire being dissolve into the space between waking and sleeping, where thought becomes image, and image becomes feeling, and feeling becomes simply rest. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left, only peace. Perhaps this quiet exploration found you at the right moment. Perhaps it offered something you needed to hear. That your dreaming mind is on your side. That your sleep is doing something real and tender for you. A gentle share carries this feeling forward to one more tired heart that needs to know, one sleepy soul at a time. Whatever you've been turning over today, those feelings you couldn't quite name, those moments you kept returning to, you don't need to carry them into sleep. They will still be there in the morning. Tonight, you belong only to yourself. You've traveled inward tonight, through corridors most people never pause to notice. You touched the architecture of your own emotional life and found it more carefully tended than you perhaps knew. You can allow these thoughts of dreams to fade now, like the last image of a dream at dawn. Present, then softer, then simply part of everything, leaving only the quiet, unheld calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if all you've carried today is being sorted by careful, invisible hands, and is simply setting itself down. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way the dreaming mind moves through emotion, not with force, but with quiet intention, into a realm where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, your dreaming mind will still be there, still tending, still weaving, still becoming. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, gentle explorer, and remember, your mind is always rewriting toward the light. Good night.